All right, good morning, everybody. All right, so looking at our trade plan from last night, it is pretty much the same. We just kind of have a micro pullback of that lowercase b. So right now, as long as we stay inside of this value of yesterday, just look for rotations. All right, sorry, I was writing the trade plan as I was speaking here. So looking at the levels from yesterday, holding above 470, we're looking for 500 and 525. Below 418, we're looking for that tail extension down to 92 and possibly 60 as well. But like I said, as long as you stay inside that value, you are looking for those rotations. By the way, guys, they are still working on the internet in the area, and it is going in and out. So if I randomly disappear, it's probably because it went down again. I will probably try to restart stream like one time, but I'm not going to keep restarting it. So if it goes down once, then look for me to restart it. If it goes down again, I'm probably just going to hang out in Discord. Okay, same story on NASDAQ here. Holding below 938, look for 867 and 700. And then above 938, you can look for that rotation, pretty large rotation, back into 382. And then possibly 673 is that next breakout level. You could also look for that POC around like 500 as well. It's not a bad level. But overall, just kind of seeing that micro pullback of yesterday. So just a continuation of yesterday's value. So far into the open, you're not like completely losing momentum, but it is kind of rolling over and losing this little uptrend here. So keep an eye on those trails and the EMAs, VWAPs, everything below. VWAP hit 41. We've already lost VWAP on NASDAQ. So keep an eye on that at 41 if it does continue after the open here. Let's take a quick look at the Fed probabilities because we do have that FOMC tomorrow, and it was looking pretty bad last time we checked. It's getting better, but it's still pretty bad. It's 70-30. The 70-30 going into a meeting literally tomorrow, which is not the greatest. Typically, this is like 90%, 99%. It's like pretty much set in stone. 70-30 is not terrible. It might get a little higher tomorrow, maybe 80-20. That wouldn't be too bad. But definitely could cause a bit of a volatility spike or just uncertainty, really, in the market because we're not really decided on that rate cut or rate hike or not. Keep an eye on that VWAP around 41. Here comes that VWAP. Good morning, Future. Illumir, Blood, Scott, Julio, Greg. Good morning, Ice. Good morning, Scott, Roman, Ray, Roma. Good morning, Larry, LDT. Yao, Anthony, Fernando, Michael, ATF. Good morning, Ryan, Tamer. If you guys are just coming in, like I was saying earlier, they're still working on the internet in the area, so if I randomly disappear, I will try to restart stream one time if my internet comes back. But if it keeps going in and out, I'm not going to keep restarting stream. So if I disappear once, I'll try to restart it one time on YouTube. And then if it goes out again, we'll just keep the stream on Discord for the day. But they haven't said they're done working, so it will most likely go down. I just don't know when. Getting a little bit of reaction on VWAP, but not much. There's a lot of bullish delta coming in on NASDAQ down here. A little bit of a block trade. You're well below VWAP on NASDAQ. It's already lost it from the pre-market. And yet again, look at these VWAP tests on the pre-market. We keep seeing this. If you guys are trading pre-market, you really need to pay attention to these VWAPs. These tests are ridiculously clean. A little bit of a trap, and then you had like a perfect test there, perfect test there, perfect test there. Another little bit of a trap there. Then you had a beautiful retest. And then you have a bit of a sloppy chop around it on the open. Yeah, pre-market is really clean, even on the buy side on ES. Yeah, a couple of sells here on ES pre-market as well. That's around like, what, 12 o'clock? So it's almost more so post-market than pre-market. It's all technically pre-market, but you know what I mean. Like this is closer to like the start of the session. I'd consider like after London kind of pre-market. And then the Asian session is kind of like post-market. Yeah, really good VWAP test recently. A lot of buyers coming in here around 40 to 45. Look at the tape there. Good morning, Leslie. Good morning, Music Farage. Good morning, Scott, Olive. Good morning, Stream. If the stream cuts out, guys, just give it like 5 or 10 minutes, and that's usually about when it comes back, and then I'll put up a new one. But if it cuts out a second time, then just look for me in Discord. Those buyers are kind of getting stuck on VWAP here. Yeah, the weekly open's a little weird this week because of the gap. So you can really just look at that. The Friday close or the gap level as the weekly open, they're both kind of the same idea for a magnet, but the gap is pretty large, so it's a little hard. We're using the bottom one as a magnet right now. The technical weekly open is the 90 level, but if there wasn't a large gap, it should be somewhere around this level here, which is around like 45. So right now, they really like that 45 level. I'm not sure if it took my stream down, but we are back if you guys can hear me. You can't hear me? Okay, so I got lucky there. YouTube kept the stream up. It usually never does that. But the internet came back fast enough to where the YouTube stream is the same. It's still going in and out, so like I said, if it goes down completely, I'll restart it one time. But yeah, unfortunately, they're messing with the internet in the area. Nothing I can do about it, sadly. Want a joke? Want a Joseph? It's not an internet problem. They're just doing work on the area. It's not like an actual like my internet's having issues. It's having issues because they're creating issues, basically. Yeah, Joseph, like I was just saying, the pre-market, if you just look at VWAP and be patient and wait for those VWAP tests, if you're trading the Asian session and the London session, basically just be patient and wait for VWAP, and it gives you tons of trades. Sometimes it could be hours, though. You just have to really wait for them. Like you had one around, like I think it's like 8 o'clock, like 9 o'clock. What time is that? It's like 12 Eastern. Or no, that's like 12 Eastern. That's like 11, I think. And then he had one around the London Open. Yeah, a bunch of really clean ones. All right, keep an eye on these lower levels here. We're trying to push that value low of yesterday, still in that micro pullback until it holds below that level. Yet again, we are seeing NASDAQ leading. My internet's really slow. You can see it's chopping up on the charts. So NASDAQ is leading that breakdown here. We could see the weakness on NASDAQ, which is why the trade plan was slightly different. We had the same level there. A bit more weakness, failed to rotate to the upside there. You're actually almost hitting our target, so let me go ahead and update this before my internet cuts out. Extended targets are 622 and 344. So far, very trendy move when it should be more so kind of two-directional. They are showing that they are taking that bearish bias from yesterday and kind of continuing that bias. That's why with micro pullbacks, you have that D-shaped mentality with the two-directional kind of chop back and forth like those rotations. But you always have a slight bias for whatever day you're inside of. So if it's like a P shape and then a micro pullback, you have a bullish bias. If it's a lowercase b, then a micro pullback, you have a bearish bias, right? So today you're seeing the lowercase b, then the D shape. And you're seeing that power of that bearish bias so far. What's on the calendar for today? We have a little bit of data at 10 o'clock, so watch out for that. All of our data this morning was slightly above expectations, except for the trade balance. It is slightly lower. Not great that we are so one-directional leading into the FOMC, especially when it's not a certain FOMC. That's like a 90% chance. We are pretty far from the weekly opens, even if you use the lower level. So if you use the actual weekly open, we're very far. If you use the lower level, we're still decently far. It's a hard one to grab the weekly open because we have that major gap up. So you kind of use the lower level as a magnet here. That close of Friday. But still leaning pretty bearish. Looks like we're getting, yeah, very obvious actually. We are getting a very obvious sector rotation. Look at the rotation here. Chip companies still selling. Tech is still kind of hit or miss. Finance is a bit hit or miss, but mostly green. But then look at the safer sectors. The consumer non-durables, that's like the blue chips, right? Consumer services, utilities, health tech, retail. They're all doing a lot better. So those are the kind of safer, quote unquote, safer, right? Less volatile companies. Manufacturing used to also be a safer sector, but not so much anymore because manufacturing is now tied almost directly into the data centers and the rapid expansion of the tech services. Okay, they just texted me. I think they're done. Let's see. No, they're not done. Okay, testing. It should have just blipped again. Okay, looks like we're good again. Well, that was good timing. I just put on my my backup internet. Yeah, Sean, let me know what the ticker is. Come on, Lucio. Make sure you guys press that live button a lot during today's stream because you might be getting a lot of buffering because my internet is very spotty today. So make sure you guys are pressing live and making sure you're up to date. You can always look at my clock here. If you have more than like 10 seconds delay, you're probably not live. Most people have like a 3 to 5 second delay. They're just doing maintenance in the area. It should be back to normal tomorrow. Said, I know bending spoons, they are bad. They bought up good companies to ruin them, but maybe smart financially. Well, if you don't trade companies because of that, you wouldn't be trading damn near anything on the stock market. Pretty much every company in the S&P 500 does that. Pretty much every company in the NASDAQ 100 really does that. That's a big thing in the tech companies. Another IPO for the future, BXBL. BXBL. Boxable? I think I've heard of them. Is that like a... What is that? Is that like... It's like a food delivery service or some shit? That is a horrendous chart. That's a SPAC that just nuked. Oh, tiny houses, that's what it is. Yeah, they have like the pre-builts, right? Or like prefabricated, whatever you call it. Yeah, Dan, I call it post-COVID, pre-COVID. It's like post 9/11, pre 9/11. The market since COVID is much more volatile. Yeah, Solo, that's one thing that I have really tried not to ever start doing, and it's probably saved me thousands of dollars. Because I work from home, so I knew the second that I started using like Uber Eats or any of those delivery services, it would have been really bad. I would have been using it probably every day. So I never started. I've literally never used those services once. And I truly don't know how people use those all the time. I know how they use them like every now and then. It's convenient for sure. I don't know how people are using that all the time. I've seen the prices. It is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. You're getting like $15 coffees. You add some food onto it, it's $20. You want McDonald's? Okay, 25, 30 bucks. It's like, what are we doing? I'm not going to get into a long ass rant because I'm pretty passionate about this topic, but it really pains me and it pisses me off when people are constantly talking about how they're struggling and that whole mentality. And then you look at their finances or you take a look at what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and it's like you're not struggling because of how much money you make. You're struggling because you don't understand how to spend money. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people that are struggling because of the income side. But I think there is a shit ton of people, maybe even the majority, that are struggling because of the expenses side. People are spending way more money than they're earning. They're spending well outside of their means. And they're complaining about it. They're not taking accountability for it. They don't realize what the root cause of the issue is, right? It's ridiculous. I live far, far below my means. I drive a car that I could easily afford many times over. I live in a house that I can easily afford. I've been wearing the same shoes for 10 plus years. Like, I have barely buy clothes. Like, I buy new clothes when I go on vacation and stuff. Like, it's just stuff like that. Like, I don't order takeout every day. I don't have Uber Eats delivering me $30 to $40 meals. People really need to work on their expenses side and their life would be a lot easier. You don't need a brand new phone every year. You don't need a brand new car every year. You don't need brand new clothes every time you wear them. Low fixed cost brings peace of mind. Yeah. If you're a day trader, like if you're doing anything, any career, keep an eye on VWAP. You're back testing it. If you're in any career that is volatile, that you don't have like a set salary and like you don't know how much you're going to make at the end of the year, you really have to do what I'm doing, like what I'm talking about, where you're spending well below your means. Because who knows? Like I could just start sucking at trading, and the market is just not great, and I'm just not making any money, and I'm actually losing money, right? You just never know, right? So when you have very volatile, um, like think about commissions jobs, right? The same thing. Commission jobs, same thing. Um, like sales and all that stuff. You have to spend very carefully because you don't know how much money you're going to make 6 months from now, a year from now. Yeah, drive your Toyota till they're 350K. Yeah, you'll be lucky if you get that out of a Toyota nowadays, but the old ones for sure. Kids at your wife's high school on free lunch order Uber Eats when they don't like. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like kids in high school ordering food to the high school. I never thought about that. That's actually funny. I'm surprised the school lets that go. Keep an eye on VWAP here. If we get back above 37, we are back into value. Technically, we're already back into value. So keep an eye on a rotation back to 46 and then back to 70. I should say back into rotation because we're not really rotating right now because we're failing VWAP. You have two still running above 350. Yeah, Toyota's Lexus is obviously owned by Toyota. They typically have really high miles. The newer ones have been struggling from what I've heard, but the older ones definitely are really good. And when I say older, I'm talking like even like 10 years ago. They're a lot better. I had a Lexus LS 400 93. It was 300, I think it was like 320. It was like 280 to 320, somewhere around there. But it started falling apart around there. It wouldn't pass emissions. It was leaking oil. Yeah, it made it to like 300K. Oh, the Supra, yeah, the Supras are nice. Yeah, I love 4Runners. 4Runners are really nice. 4Runners, the old Broncos. You know, I thought I wouldn't like the newer Bronco style. It's actually not that bad. I've seen a few of them driving around recently. They're definitely more modern looking, but they're not as ugly as I thought they'd be. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Toyotas. Yeah, Anthony, it really just comes down to like it's like balancing your books, right? Like I said, it's the money you're bringing in, the money you're spending, and people just. I think it's a big social media problem. I think social media is just the root of all evil for the most part. People see what's going on social media, all these fancy vacations and these fancy cars and these fancy houses and just all that bullshit. And they want to spend out of their means to pretend like they fit into this lifestyle. If we can stay above VWAP here, keep it on that rotation back to that value high, we are trying to stay within balance here. They tried to break balance on the pre-market, failed. Tried to break again here, failed. So both attempts staying inside of that micro pullback. This is why we always say with micro pullbacks, you have a slight bearish bias because of that lowercase b here. But you still have that choppy kind of rotational, two-directional bias as well. Yeah, exactly, the YOLO lifestyle, yep. YOLO is perfectly fine if you can pay for what you're doing, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with spending your money how you want and enjoying your life, but it's spending the money you don't have, that's the problem. VWAP getting hit here, failing to rotate. Yeah, it's like a multi-stage bear flag in the VWAP, because like this is the flag here, and then first test, that's your perfect trade right there. This is not exactly a bear flag, but it's a continuation of the same one. Well, you would hope that a lot of kids are not inheriting a lot of debt, because a lot of that debt does not pass over. And a lot of the debt should not pass over, right? Was it a sweep at 947? 947? You mean the time 947? Not really, no. Depends on what time frame you're looking at. What time frame are you looking at? Ultimate, it's just personal preference. There's no, like, right or wrong. I've tried range. I've tried everything. Like, if you think of it, I've tried it. Tick charts, range charts, volume charts, delta charts. There's really not much in trading I haven't tried. I've been doing this for a very long time, right? It's just personal preference. You're just seeing years and years worth of personal preference. This is just what I prefer to do. No, it is not a 30-minute sweep. It's kind of a 5-minute sweep, but not a really good one. Like you have this candle here, and then you have that breakdown, and then it sweeps back above it. So it's kind of like a 5-minute sweep, but not really a 30. I see what you're looking at. Like you're looking at the bigger sweep. You're looking at this right here. Like yes, technically that is a sweep, but not in the usual sense of how I'm teaching you guys about sweeps. Like this would be a sweep. So like yes, this is technically sweeping the overnight low. But if you're looking at more so like the sweep trade in the actual candle, this would be a sweep trade because you have a level, you broke the level, and then you retraced it in the same candle. So yes, I would say technically yes, but not the best. Your dad still has an F-150 from the 70s. Yeah, that's why they're the top selling truck of, I think, like all time. It's like every single year the Toyotas are the top selling. Or sorry, the Fords. Those are Fords, right? F-150s. Yeah, Joseph, what's up? Yeah, Corollas. Corollas are nice. The Camrys are nice nowadays. They've done a big redesign on the Camrys. A lot more modern looking. So we are failing to rotate right now, guys. You are running into VWAP multiple times. You were supposed to rotate to, let me show you here. You were supposed to rotate to 45 or even the entire rotation back to 70. But it is failing to rotate, hitting that POC, hitting that VWAP. Want to ring go? Yeah, Tirito, what you're asking is about hidden divergence. There's different kinds of divergence. There's like regular divergence, there's hidden divergence, and there is exaggerated divergence. Pretty much any time the indicator and the price are not doing the same thing, there's a type of divergence there. It just depends, Joseph, on like where the value area is, because what you're explaining could be seen as like a retrace trade. Like if you're just completely retracing back into old value, then it would just be a retrace back to the bottom, right? But if it comes back into that old value and then just instantly starts buying back up again, and like they're protecting the upper like 30% or upper 20%, then it would be more of a bull flag. It'd be more of like a continuation. It just depends on how they respect that value. Yeah, definitely not looking too good on the higher time frame, Sean, for sure. This is not technically a head and shoulders, by the way, Sean. You don't look at head and shoulders on downward impulses. It is the same methodology where it's like lower, higher, lower, but it's not technically a head and shoulders because head and shoulders happen on impulse to the upside. So it's impulse up, and then you have that pattern. So it's more of a timing thing. We're almost in a head and shoulders on the daily, which is not pretty. The reason you don't want to do it on lows, Sean, it's not just a semantics thing. The reason you don't want to do it on lows is because this could turn out to be a double bottom. That's why they work better on highs. On highs, they're more so sweeps, they're more so rollovers, distributions, like all these different patterns that can turn into sells. But on lows, they could turn into buys because they have so many patterns for buys. It could be a bullish sweep. It could be a double bottom. By the way, guys, I think I'm mostly caught up with emails. If I have not responded to your email, go ahead and resend it. I might not have seen it. My email gets ridiculously spammed with just marketing requests and partnership stuff and just spam, just general spam. So if I did not respond to you, just go ahead and resend it. And I will try my best to get to you before the end of today. Markets seem to be pricing in a rate hike. Yeah, which is a weird thing because that's not what the market says. The market says 80%, or I think it's like 70%, no change. But it's definitely pricing in uncertainty. It's pricing in the fact that we don't really know. And I believe this is the first time that Warsh... Is it the second time or first time that he's actually been in charge of a decision? Because I know he did that conference last time, but that was like already set in stone. Like that was already like a 90% chance that nothing was going to happen. So it's technically the second time, but it's really the first time where it's like the market doesn't really know. SpaceX still perfectly following that IPO pattern. So like I said, we're keeping an eye on like maybe 60 to 80. 80 is probably a little too close, probably closer to like 60-ish. Maybe even lower than that. We'll see. It just all depends on where it starts to accumulate. You're always looking for that accumulation pattern. And you are not accumulating right now, you're just nuking. Yeah, sellers are kind of exhausted down here, which is very common with the lowercase b. Like lowercase b, they're much better around the POC, around VWAP, around the value high. But they're a little bit weak on the low. Good morning, Bob. I'm not really sure what you're saying, Bob. A full daily ATR range, what do you mean? Like the volatility is just high? You can see the battle between the lowercase b and the D shape. Like it keeps rotating, it keeps chopping around because of that overlap, but you still have that bearish bias pushing you down here. Yeah, it's just the time of the year, or I guess time of the month, I guess you would say. We have close of the month, we have FOMC, we have data coming out, we still have Iran headlines. It's just a perfect storm of bullshit. And whenever there's a perfect storm of bullshit, you have very high volatility. Oh, we forgot to cover the 10 o'clock data. That was consumer confidence 90.8 over 92.4, and Richmond 5 over 7. This also shows you what I talk about in my lowercase b videos. Same thing with the capital P videos. You can still trade the other side. Like, for example, you want to be a seller on the value high of a lowercase b, right? As long as they protect it, you want to be a seller. That's kind of the optimal point of being a seller. If it fails to rotate on VWAP, bear flag in a VWAP, all that stuff, that's also optimal, right? But if you want to be a buyer, you can still buy the value low of the lowercase b if there are sweeps or just any kind of like buy pattern, exhaustion, absorption, all that stuff on those value lows. Same thing with a P shape. You really want to be a buyer around the value low. You can be a buyer if there's like a bull flag into VWAP, that sort of thing. But you can still be a seller on the value high of a P shape. You just need to be careful, because when it starts to break out and it turns into a P-shaped failure or a lowercase b failure, it's going to take you out of that trade pretty quickly because it turns into like a squeeze. So it's almost like you're starting out trading the rotations, but then as soon as it shows signs that those rotations want to break, then you want to get out of that, right? So you still want to focus heavily on the side that is biased. On a P shape, that's the buy side. On a lowercase b, that's the sell side. But if you really see opportunities to buy the value low of a lowercase b or sell the value high of a capital P, you can. You just need to be careful. A good way to understand it is capital P's and lowercase b's. If you read Dalton's books, he talks about how they're not aggressively, like a P shape is not an aggressive buy day. It just means the shorts are getting weak, they're getting exhausted, the buyers are taking over, the shorts are closing, right? Lowercase b, same thing. The sellers are not aggressively strong. It's just the buyers are getting exhausted, they're giving up, they're selling. It's more so weakness on the other side, not strength on your side, right? When it's very strong on that side, on like one side, then it's more of a trend day. When you're just ripping in one direction. That's when the other side is letting go, they're getting exhausted, but also the side that's in control is very aggressive. They're getting a ton of delta, they're squeezing, they're just kind of blowing up in one direction. So lowercase b's, capital P's, they're slightly biased, but not overly biased, is my point. Think of it more so as the weaker side closing than the stronger side aggressively opening. How close are we to that trail on NASDAQ? No, we are there already, yeah. So NASDAQ is already on its weekly trail. That is not great. Pretty much every time we lose the weekly trail, it leads to a pretty strong dip. You have a couple of sweeps, like where we'll lose it for like a day. But if it loses it for more than a day, it's usually pretty bad. Like you can see here, there's a ton of sweeps. It gives you a lot of sweeps on the buy side. But if we lose it for a couple of days, like 2 to 3 days, or I guess, sorry, in this case it would be weeks because this is a weekly chart. If it loses it for 2 to 3 candles, I should say, not days. If it loses it for a few candles and it doesn't immediately sweep it, that is bad news. That normally turns into a pretty deep correction. Yeah, speaking of days, we've already lost the daily and it's already given you a pretty deep correction on the daily. We have not lost the daily entirely on ES. You have lost it, but it has not flipped. It hasn't confirmed that sell-off yet. Basically, long story short, once all these earnings come out in the next week or two, we should have a pretty good understanding of where our macro trend is going to be. If these earnings are really bad, you are probably due for a pretty deep correction over the next few weeks. Do you have to break the 24 to confirm the break of VWAP, the failure of VWAP? I teach this in my tutoring a lot because this is something that comes up a lot with the bear flag and the VWAP. You don't have to lose the 24 for like the entry. You can enter on VWAP, but the EMAs, they are the first line of resistance. They are the first failure point, right? Like if that trade is going to fail, you're going to know pretty much immediately on those EMAs. So like, for example, right here, you hit VWAP, you broke through the EMA very easily, you got your target. You hit VWAP, you broke through the 24 pretty easily the first time, but then it kind of chopped, you still got your target. This time you hit VWAP, you did not break these EMAs easily at all. You started bouncing off those EMAs. So the difference with like this little section here of VWAP pullbacks and like these ones back here, these broke the first point of failure pretty easily. Now, when it tests that first point of failure, that first point of resistance, and it does struggle on that level, that's kind of up to you on how you handle that. Do you just go ahead and close your trade for whatever profit you already have? Do you bring your stop loss to break even? Do you just leave your stop alone because you really believe in the trade? That's really up to you. There's no like right or wrong. It's really dependent on all the variables that go into what's going on at that very moment. But that is the first sign of like, hey, I should probably manage my trade. I should probably do something. It's waking you up a little bit. What settings do I use for the EMAs? The orange one's a 24. The teal one is an 8. Well, this isn't like a VWAP short like you would normally be taking them. This is kind of like a reverse bouncing ball where it's like constantly getting weaker and weaker to the buy side. Like this VWAP sell was very good. This VWAP sell was very good. But then it just keeps happening again and again. They're going to get weaker. Like I said, the technical bear flag in the VWAP is only the first one. That first pullback in the VWAP, that is the technical bear flag in the VWAP. Everything else is just a continuation of that same move. So they get weaker and weaker and weaker. Now, sometimes they just keep working, like kind of like today. It's worked like 3 or 4 times. But it just becomes harder to trust when you're on like the 4th, 5th, 6th time, right? It's the same thing with rotations. Rotations are beautiful first, second, third time, but then after that you're like, okay, are we going to keep rotating? It's kind of getting a little weird now. It should actually be breaking rotation. I use all the VWAPs ultimate, so I have the weekly VWAP. I have the session VWAP that's anchored to the actual start of the session. I have the daily VWAP. There's no like right or wrong one. They're all very good. It's just whichever ones you can continue to use in your day-to-day trading. I used to talk a lot more about the monthly VWAP. We don't do that one as much right now because you're just moving so aggressively. The monthly VWAP is a lot better when it's a bit slower. Excuse me. I will be right back, guys. Got to mute for a few minutes. Alright, sorry guys, had to mute for a few minutes. Keep an eye on VWAP here at 852. You're hitting VWAP on NASDAQ. You are just going back into a standard rotation on ES. You have broken the value high of today. So if it does continue, you're trying to retrace the value high of yesterday, which is pretty hard to get to because you can see even yesterday, the value high would have probably shifted down to like this level here if it traded a little bit longer. So this little section right here, not a lot of value there. You can see that we really struggled to get above that. What level is that? It is around like 55 to 60. So keep an eye on that. If you can stay above that 55 to 60 area, you are looking for that 70 retrace. And also, we have a couple of single prints left open. This clock is always in the way. Going up to 70. So almost the same exact level. So if we do finish that retrace into the value high, you will also hit that single print fill-in. Buyers are a little bit exhausted here. I said, am I using big trades? Yeah, there's a bunch of big trade stuff on my screen. So there's a tape with big trades. That's filtered to 100. There are diamonds. Those are filtered for 300, I believe. And then the circles, which we don't really have a lot of today, they are filtered for 300, I believe. Yeah, surprisingly, you've not been seeing a ton of block trades recently. Usually around all this stuff going on, the FOMC, the monthly close, all that, you typically see a lot more. They might be waiting. Not usually, Scott. The only time I really pay attention to like the total delta is if it's like really high, like plus 30k, minus 30k. If it's kind of like out of the ordinary, but if it's just normal, the number doesn't really mean anything. If you're going to look at it that way, you're better off just looking at it kind of candle by candle. Is a sweep only valid when it sweeps the prior 30-minute candle? It depends. Like, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. You can sweep a prior level from before, but like the farther it is away, the less it's probably reacting to just that level. Like, there's probably closer price action or something happening closer to where it is now that's causing it to sweep like that. Like maybe an absorption or exhaustion or just something else happening. But if it's like candle by candle, then you can say that it's more so just because it's sweeping that level. A good example is the one that you gave earlier, like the overnight levels. Like you can use the overnight levels for a good sweep level. It just kind of depends on how it's reacting to that level. Depends on how recent that low was. Like for example, like this low here, it's about like halfway through the overnight. If it was like the start of the overnight, there might be something else going on here. Let's say like this is very recent. So if we popped up here and then swept that really quickly, then that would be a sweep of the overnight high. It'd be a very strong sweep because it's very recent, right? And there's also like overlapping wicks, and there's just a bunch of stuff that goes along with it. But if you're talking about like just the actual candle pattern, this is a better example because it's right before it. You have the high right before it, you try to break it, and then you swept, like the next candle. So candle by candle is more so like the, I guess you'd say like the shorter term trades, like the scalping trades. And then you can use the broader levels like the value high, value low, overnight levels. But just be careful to pay attention to like what else is happening around those levels. There might be something more recent that is happening. Yeah, Josh, there's just a lot of bullshit going on over the next week or two. That's not like purely technical. There's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. Is Trump scheduled to speak? I didn't see anything on the calendar. I'm not sure. I know he was just meeting with. I don't think he's speaking. He's meeting with Netanyahu, and he was meeting with Zelensky right now. I don't know if they're doing like a press conference. Yeah, it's kind of like a failed auction. It depends on like what type of move it is. Like if it's failing to retrace a very important level, like a value level or something like that. Yeah, I think they're starting. I think it's tomorrow, isn't it, Sean? I believe it's tomorrow. I don't think SanDisk is on that list. It's a very limited list. All right, you're trying to rotate back down here. Let's see if it can just break through VWAP and basically just ignore it and go back down to these value lows, 23 and 18. So like here's a good example of the sweeps, right? Like you see how we're like breaking the value high, but then coming all the way back down on the same candle? And then same thing here, breaking the value high, coming all the way back down. So you're not sweeping other candles, you're just sweeping that value level. Am I going to release a video on the single stock futures? I'm not planning on it, no. They're pretty much traded exactly the same way as futures for like what we're doing right now. They just have different sizing and different ticks and stuff like that. You just got to learn what the ticks are and like how much money you're actually risking per contract. I'm very curious to see if the prop firms, because they're already situated on the futures, like the actual futures side, I'm wondering if they're going to be able to quickly get into that world of the stock futures. If the prop firms get more involved, I will probably make a video on it. Hey, Scott, have a good day, man. I'll see you tomorrow. But they're run by the same people. They're run by CME, and the prop firms already have all these contracts, and they have all these. They basically have access, right, to the CME. So you'd think it'd be fairly easy for them to offer them. But they are brand new products. So it will probably take them a while to figure out, like, how do we actually go about the rules and how you trade these prop accounts for the single stock futures. You know what I mean? You can't use the same, like, 50K, 100K, 250K. They don't have the same notional value. They'll have to come up with, like, rules and systems on how you can trade these. But I would not be shocked if by the end of the year or, like, next year, prop firms like Apex and the other big dogs in the US start offering accounts for them. We'll see. Maybe they're not allowed to because they're too new of a product. I'm not sure. Good morning, Mauser. Good morning, Bella. Okay, so here's the problem we were talking about. So if you want to rotate, you have to break these VWAPs very easily. It is not doing that. You're getting a lot of buy pressure off VWAP here. Most likely a headline. You're getting a ton of level 2 orders coming in. There might be a headline coming out. Is oil reacting? Okay, it does look like there's an oil headline. Oil was reacting a little bit there. Don't see exactly what the headline was, but we do have a move in oil at the same time. You can trade options on Ninja now, Olive? I didn't know that. You mean futures or do you mean options? Oh, you're talking about futures. Yeah, yeah. I thought you were talking about options. Yeah, I would not trade options on a prop. I wouldn't trade options really much at all right now in this current market. It's very volatile. Unless you obviously know what you're doing, which a lot of people that trade options don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of gambling with them. Yeah, I think the current volatility is just so high and good for um, futures trading. Well, good and bad. With risk comes volatility. Or sorry, with volatility comes risk, obviously. But it also gives you opportunity. Yeah, I think with the continued growth in the single stock futures, you're going to see a lot less retail volume in options. You're still going to have the big boys playing around on the options, but I think the retail side is going to heavily shift to futures with the single stock futures. This could be reacting to Netanyahu and Trump meeting at the White House, but no headlines have come out from that meeting just yet. Keep it on the overnight high here at 67. Then we have the single prints from yesterday, which lines up pretty much perfectly with that value high. So going back to 70, it's a couple of levels here. Okay, here are those single prints being filled in, and they're doing their favorite thing. They're creating new single prints to fill in the old ones. So when this 30-minute closes, you will have single prints going back to 57 here. That's also finishing the rotation. We are very far from the single prints on NASDAQ. It has plenty of levels to hit before that. You would have to finish today's value retrace, then today's overnight high, then yesterday's value high. Then you have the single prints from that move, which kind of lines up around that 400. That was that 622 extended target. If it does go down in the afternoon, the next target is 344. That level that we're bouncing off of is really old. If you guys are wondering where that's coming from, that is, it's not even loading, it's so old. That's back in April. So April and May, there's a value level there. building a very strong node at 68 here. You do have single prints going back to 57. Hey, y'all, have a good day, man. We'll see you tomorrow. You as well, Chebby. You're about to have single prints in a couple minutes here. They're going to go down to 57. No, Scott, I don't even have RTrader on my computer, I don't believe. I don't even think I have it downloaded anymore. I just literally use the same exact login that Apex gives you for the Rhythmic data feed, and I log that into Addis. Yeah, Ryder, have a good day, man. Do you have a paid Addis account? Because I know sometimes with the trials they won't connect. But if you have a paid account, it should be working. Yeah, if it's not working, I don't really know how to help you because it just works so easily for me. I never had to play around with it. I never had to do anything weird. I just literally put in my login and it just works. That might be something you have to contact support about. Make sure to check your servers maybe, like, because when you go to the server, I think I talked about it in the startup guide. Like you have to select like the Apex server. Yeah, so I'm on the Chicago server. I have nothing else checked. I don't check the commission one. I don't check the aggregated quotes. I don't check the RTrader Pro. And then I just put in my login. Maybe you had those things checked. Just turn those off, and that might fix it. Single print's going down to 57 here, which is right around that 24 EMA. We could say the whole reason we were going up was to fill in the single prints if they cannot hold above 70. Because this entire move here was filling in the single prints from yesterday. Hey, Jizzo, good day, man. Started to see more block trades. I was saying earlier, it's a bit weird we weren't getting more block trades with all the stuff going on, but we're starting to see more now. Yeah, volatility should honestly not get any better for the next like 2 weeks. We have so much earnings this week, so much happening next week. End of the month, start of the month, it's not going to get much better. I removed your message, Scott. I'm guessing you didn't mean to put that in there. Protecting this upper node here, which is then protecting the single prints down below as well. So buyers are doing pretty damn good here. They did finish filling in the single prints from yesterday. It looked like they were reacting bearishly at first, but now they are pushing back up. So now we're at that stage of the lowercase b where the value high is being tested. This is the most optimal point for sellers if they want to protect that bearish value, right? But if the buyers take over, it's also the most dangerous place for sellers, because if you start building value above this, you can retrace that upper tail. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about this is kind of the value high right here, not right here. So once they reclaimed that like 55 area, these sellers were getting a lot weaker. So now we're starting to push that upper tail as long as we can stay above that 70 node. Yeah, Flory, that's kind of what these candles are doing. Like, it shows you the volume and it shows you the delta. There's also probably indicators on Addis that can combine them a bit more. You could also use like delta charts or volume charts for that sort of analysis as well. You can have it on a volume chart, but then showing you the delta or vice versa. Keep an eye on that 70 node, because as long as they protect that node, they are protecting the break into this tail, breaking out of that lowercase b. They're also obviously protecting the single prints as well. They're struggling to break this high so far. That high is kind of holding you down. A little bit of a bear div here. Equal highs, but very low momentum. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Addis has indicators that do that. I just don't remember what their name is. You'll have to click around the delta indicators. No, you're thinking of delta in like the mathematical term. Like delta in math is like the change of something, right? Um, but delta in trading is kind of the same thing. It's like the change of something, but it's the difference of market buyers and market sellers. So it's a very specific type of delta. A change in market orders, I guess you would say. No, not really, Michael. Technically the levels are more accurate on Addis. Um, but that's a massive block trade, 1,600 contracts there. But because I've been doing it so long on TradingView and I have all the levels already saved, and this is just my daily routine. I'm just used to doing it this way. It's just like force of habit that I still use TradingView for it. But yes, technically the Addis levels are more accurate because they have better tick data. So you can, if you don't have TradingView, you can just do it on Addis. Something like money flow index, I guess kind of, yeah. There's a lot of indicators that are similar, but unless you have the actual tick data, you can't get delta. Like TradingView has delta indicators, they're not accurate because they don't have the proper data. It's like fruit from a poisonous tree, right? If the data is not correct, the tree is poisoned, doesn't matter what you derive from that tree. TradingView uses more basketed data. It doesn't have like tick by tick data. You're not going to get proper delta unless you have an order flow platform that has like tick data. All right, guys, we streamed a little bit longer today because it has been blowing up. Just wanted to catch a lot of this on stream, but I will be heading over to Discord now. It seems like my internet is fairly stable. If you guys are in Discord, I should be okay to stream for most of the day. If I randomly disappear, just wait like 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll just show back up in Discord when my internet's back up. But they have not sent me the message saying that they're done, so they're probably still working in the area. But yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Keep an eye on that trade plan going up to 500, 525. We could be retracing this upper tail as long as it stays above 70. For NASDAQ, it's a bit of a different story because you are so damn bearish on NASDAQ. It's more of a retrace of the value area than possibly the tail. We bottomed on our, well, we finished our trade plan. Our trade plan's already done. But then we hit our extended target at 622, and that was the bottom so far. If it nukes in the afternoon, our next extended target is 344. But yeah, our bearish trade plan is already done. But all right, guys, if you enjoy the stream, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I will be streaming tomorrow, not only in the morning, but I will be streaming the FOMC, as always, in the afternoon as well. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BREW on Apex, which, by the way, I should have been getting those from you guys. What's today, Tuesday? I should have let you know yesterday, but I did forget. Go ahead and start sending me your receipts for the raffle. If you guys use code BREW anytime during July, go ahead and send those over to my email. Just take a screenshot of the receipt that you use code BREW for. I need to see the account size, the date you purchased it, and the invoice number. It will not show you the promo code. It's not on the receipt. I just need to see those three things: the size, the date, and the receipt number. And that's how I'll confirm it. Yeah, anything, not just the 50Ks, the 100Ks, the legacy accounts, doesn't matter. If you use code BREW for it, just send it over. I'll turn it into raffle tickets. You get 1 ticket per 50K. So if it's 100K, 2 tickets, so on and so forth. Prizes, same as always, Discord access and tutoring as well. Yeah, send those over to that email. Just have them sent before, what's the first day of the month? Is it like Saturday or something? It is Saturday, yep. So have them sent before Saturday, and I will get you guys entered in the raffle. But all right, guys. I will see you guys in Discord. By the way, they're still doing that 90% off, and they still have the legacy accounts as well. If you guys do want to get the legacy accounts, I recommend the 250s, especially for this current volatility. But all right, guys, I'll see you in Discord. If you're not in Discord, I will catch you guys tomorrow morning. You guys have a good rest of your day. Peace, everybody.